G'day folks, AoS Coach here, and I have a new disgusting book here. We have the new Maggotkin of Nurgle Battletome, moving away from Index Hammer, and boy oh boy, Austin, my guest, and I'll introduce Austin in a second, but this is a disgusting book, not in a bad way like it's broken, but there's a lot going on here, and I think we're only going to scratch the surface. We'll spend a good amount of time talking about what's changed. That you've got so many new war scrolls. There's tweaks in your battle formations and your battle traits, and there's a new prayer law. Sorry to ruin Christmas for you. There's a whole new prayer law. There is so much going on in this battle tome. I think we're going to preview it to the best that we can. I will put the caveat that we don't have points. So at the time of recording, I don't have points. So we're going to make some rough guesses around like how much Festus is going to cost us, or our rot swords. They could be higher, they could be lower. And obviously our opinion might have changed off the back of maybe some of those adjustments. And if you are looking at buying the book, do come help support the channel. Warpfire Minis, Element Games, or Gap Games, depending on where you are. Links down below. Austin, my guest here, Austin Thimesch, is a top-performing Nurgle player. He has done incredibly well, top ranking on the ITC for 2025, only just pipped at the very end by Mike. But you've done incredibly well. You are a big Nurgle fan, and we've been trading back and forth, just talking about this book and the changes, and I'm really excited to get into it. But let's get into it. Austin, g'day, welcome, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, gotta love the dad bods. It's my army. You rock the dad bod, you play the dad bod, baby. Let's go.
So let's maybe two questions before we get straight into it, because normally I'd like fluff around and talk about random stuff, but we got a lot to go through, a lot. First off, why Nurgle? Like, why do you like Nurgle? For those people who may be Nurgle enthusiasts, maybe looking at this thinking, I want to get into Nurgle. What's the sales pitch? Tell me about why you got into Nurgle and love it.
First, there's a few different aspects that are amazing about Nurgle, and all of it is for a person like me who doesn't have a ton of time to devote to the game. Hobbying this army, you cannot be the strongest painter, and you can make the army look good. Sometimes amazing, depending on a personal preference or not. You could be biased, whatever. That's a huge bonus for me. It's something that I can come down, paint 5 or 6 models in a night, and get it done, and it's something I'm happy about. Another reason is it's usually a very forgiving army. I don't want to give away too much too early, but there's still a lot of rules built into the army right now that we have kept that make it an army that's fairly simply to pilot and play effectively. But there's also tools within the army that you can bring it higher. So it's a little bit more of a simpler army to play, but it also has a high skill cap, which is it's a huge interest of mine. And then the third is the aesthetic. Started off with it. I rock the dad bod. I got to play the dad bods. So that's where I'm at.
You might receive a lawsuit from ogre players wanting to want some compensation for that dad bod quotes, but I'm really fascinated. Like this particular book, and I'm not going to say that I was there when Nurgle changed from, I don't know, Austin, if you were there, but very early on in Age of Sigmar, you could run and charge off the back of a Feculent Narmor, and you were the fastest army in the game. And I remember when that particular change happened. I remember when like Nurgle, was it the 3rd edition Battletome? I think it might have dropped, and like, maybe it was 2nd edition, people were just like, this is the worst battle tome ever. And like, people were just really upset. But this book hasn't lost a lot. Nope. There's just gained a bunch of things and tweaked a bunch of things. And I say this because I'd probably say Nurgle from a competitive point of view has probably had some slim pickings of late. It probably hasn't had the strongest win rate. It's certainly been a bit of a grind. The likes of your Soggy Guo has definitely helped a little bit. So I guess like maybe opening the veil just a little here, what was your overall impression on the battle tome, and maybe like what's your favorite thing so far? And then we'll get straight into it.
So you like, it's so hard not to give away too much because there's a lot I'm pretty interested in. Again, with not knowing points, we don't know where everything's at. Of course, I have a few drawbacks and a few red flags that I'm seeing. But again, we're not seeing the whole picture. But really, really excited about I never played the 30 or 40 Blightkings list, so I only have 10. So the fact that that's going away a little bit is harsh, but I'm really excited about the Rot Swords. My flies are still very relevant, which are awesome. And I really like the thematic tie-in with the Fecula Gnarlmaw now. Like, we'll get into that, but how that kind of helps create the moving castle. Like, the garden is growing per se type thing. And there's a lot about it there that it's fun. They hit the nail on the head on Nurgle for sure. It's fun because at first you're just like, no musicians. Well, to get to the War Scroll, and it's like, man, what's going on? And then you have a couple other rules that are built in. You're like, oh, that's why. And it's fun. It's gonna be fun. The durable castle army is still there. It's just you got a little bit different avenues you can do with different builds.
Yeah, and we'll go through obviously the entire faction, right? So I'm going to call out all of the changes that we notice on War Scrolls. We have a bunch of new War Scrolls, and obviously the entire thing from like battle traits, battle formations, and things like that. So hopefully we've made it easy for you to digest what has changed. And if you're a Nurgle player, hopefully navigate through some of those changes. If you're new to Nurgle, then potentially how do you get started? Speaking of which, let's get started on our battle traits. So I have leaned into the battle scroll language, and I have colored magenta where things have changed. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So what you're noticing here, folks, is that we have 4 obviously battle traits that have received some tweaks, some larger than others, and we've gained 2 new brand rules. So let's start from the start. Blessed from the Plague Father. I'm not going to read this out word for word. This is not story time with Coach. But a couple of things here that we're noticed is that we can see now that we're picking enemy unit within 7 inches of a friendly unit. That is saying also, and by the way, you'll notice that the disease mechanic, they've really made it clear that it's excluding your manifestations and terrain features. So just that's a very consistent theme across the board. But you'll notice here that if you are in combat with a Nurgle unit, it will receive a disease keyword. And if you are not in combat, but you are within 7 inches of a Nurgle unit, they will receive it on a 4-up. Initial thoughts, Austin?
I love it. The increased rate, like just the ability to kind of spread it out. You know, a lot of times people, if they didn't have an advantageous engage, it'd be hard to get the disease out there if you didn't bring a Guo for the spell. Or I mean, I use the crutch of the Rotmire Creed quite often just to be able to shoot out the disease. The ability that, hey, within 7 inches I can make it. If you come on the zone, I am going to get an opportunity to disease you type thing. Like there's a lot there that is pretty cool. And, you know, the fact that they kept it that you are automatically diseased in melee 2 is still huge. So you can get it rolling with that.
This is only a positive, in my opinion. I don't think there's a negative to this. Second one is your desperate remedies. So if an ability would heal or return slain models to a diseased enemy unit, and that ability is not healed or returned by any slain models, receive instead, it no longer has the disease keyword. Now, this has changed, and the entire wording has changed. The ability returns. Is it similar? Or they've just changed a little bit.
I think the stipulation is about the same. It was anything where, like, if you rallied, you at least had to heal for it to actually take the disease off. As far as that goes, Coach, I don't think there's any difference on that. That's stayed about the same.
Maybe it's just like I can see there's extra wording. All right, relatively similar. Cool. Maybe I just like the color magenta. Racked with disease. So pick each diseased enemy unit to be the target and inflict D3 mortal damage.
Yep.
So this was triggered off 2, right?
So it used to be a dirty D3, correct. Now the fact that it's just a D3 is phenomenal because, you know, everybody's played that game where it's like, all right, 5 units are diseased and I did 2 mortal wounds that turn. It's just like, how? So yeah, I think it's a great change for it on that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're leaning so much into the disease keyword. The last thing you want to be doing is then rolling 2-ups and potentially failing this thing. So this is a quality of life improvement and a little bit more consistency here.
Mm-hmm.
Burst Pestrels really hasn't changed other than, again, just making it very clear manifestations and terrain is not going to be thing. So we'll kind of skip through that. I actually, anything you want to call it on that one? Is that a change?
I'm glad they added that rule. It's phenomenal. I think it's super thematic, and it allows us to kind of, if I kill the unit I'm engaged with, I can still disease that hero that's, behind them. Like there's a lot of utility to that rule built in that really makes the game a little bit more fun and give you some agency in an army that necessarily doesn't have a ton of it and with the battle trait.
The things that I'm most excited about is definitely here. We've got 2 new rules. So Blighted Regrowth is your hero phase. You can use this ability if there are no Feculent Narmors on the battlefield. Set up a Feculent Narmor on the battlefield wholly within 12 inches of an objective that you control, and more than 3 inches from all enemy units, objectives, and terrain features. Now this is big. Like this is really interesting. I was starting to cook up some ideas on this particular one, but what were your thoughts on this particular rule?
I like it because, again, kind of with what I alluded to in the beginning is the moving castle where your army kind of stays with the garden and the normal mall. Like some players, I'm sure, are going to focus these things down that really kind of help amplify your army as far as its survivability and ability to bring models back. So the fact that I can potentially bring them back, turns 3, 4, and 5 if they're removed is pretty huge.
I was thinking about turn 1 actually, where in turn 1 or in deployment, I don't even put a Narmor down. So like deployment, no Narmor, gets to my first hero phase. I'm able to slingshot essentially off one of my home objectives in that turn and then push that Narmor forward quite significantly, being that it's within 12 of that objective. Like that's slingshotting a tree quite significantly. So for me, that was where I was thinking. But yeah, to your point, if one's destroyed, you can bring it back relatively easily.
See, Coach, I thought that was going to be a part of our paid video that we did where we were selling some real deep dive strategies there. That you're preaching right now. You're sure you not got some Father Nurgle in you right there? That's good.
I like, yeah, like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, right, it's like often we talk about the moving castle, right? And it's hard because your army is advancing, especially if you're using flies or something with a bit more speed. You kind of like almost like, how do I stay within tree range? Or how do I keep the tree up? This is a great way to go. Cool. But also what it allows me to do is it allows me to adapt to my deployment. If I'm low drops on 1 or 2 drops, my opponent outdrops me and then they put their force completely away from me. Boom. I slingshot or move that tree closer to where I want the fight to be. So that was what I was thinking about. But we have a lot of ideas. And then the last one is Ceaseless Infectors, which is a once per turn army. Any of your end of any turn is pick an enemy unit that was in combat with a friendly Rotbringers unit that was destroyed this turn to be the target. You can't pick manifestation or terrain. Roll the dice. On a 3-up, the target has the disease keyword.
Yep,
this is interesting.
I love it because there's so many times where, I had like these 10 plague bearers and it's like, all right, I know if he comes in, I should have a couple. And then you know what? I didn't hit any of my 5-ups. The unit was dead and it was a real feels bad. But now you still have that opportunity potentially to disease. I think it's a really cool, really good rule for, per se, it's not going to be with the plague bearers because it is rot bringers, but there are other units which we'll go through that are kind of like a chaff screen that if you trade them and if they die, you still get that opportunity, and they're probably doing what they should have at that point.
Yeah, what I really like is without ruining Christmas, there are ways to like combine it with like the Blessed of the Plague Father or your Pox-Wretches and things like that. So if it's an ability you like, there's ways to manipulate and play with this a little more. But maybe just the overall summary battle trait, it doesn't feel like... So if I was going from Index Nurgle to today, I don't feel like I've lost anything. I've actually only gained things.
I mean, as we go through this, like we went from you really had to drive the Nurgle army well to get the disease rolling on a fairly upscale player. It was hard to get everything disease, and now it's getting to the point where I think turns 3, 4, and 5, they're really going to be feeling disease because there's so many ways to manipulate and put it out there.
I think to your point as well, like when we were talking about Blessed by the Plague Father, you don't have to rely on the Rotmire Creed. You don't have to rely on like the is it Gorodigus or the Guo, like, you know, doing things.
The Guo has, yep.
Like all of a sudden, you know, if you were trying to think about like, how do I unlock disease early or at range, and you were always going down this particular route, you can almost like step back and go, do I still need it? And where can my points go somewhere else? So it's just giving you extra options, which I really like.
Correct. Yep.
Anything else you want to say to your point? Yeah.
No, it's a good segue to the next section.
All right, segue, get ready, because there's a lot of magenta. Whoa. There is a lot of magenta. In fact, to the point where some of them have literally changed names. You've got like Taliban, you've still got your Taliban, you've still got your Menagerie, but you can see there we've now got a whole bunch of new rules. So let's start with like, when you look at this, let's maybe overall high level, right? Battle formations have fundamentally changed. Is this a bad thing? And what's your overall just initial thoughts?
I personally think you have 3 options with how you build your lists to have decent battle formations. This isn't a book where you look at it and you're like, that's the one I'm playing. From my first take, it's Taliban, Menagerie, and Cyst. I think all are very, very viable battle formations for what you want to do. Affliction Cyst, that is. Plague Cyst, I'm not a super big fan on, just because in most games that adding to control score, I'm either controlling the zone or my opponent is. I never really have too much where that has come into play. But, everybody's looking at the very long novel of Word on Taliban of Nurgle, which we can go through. But I love that battle formation. I think it's got a lot of fun to it. But then also as a player who has played flies, having the ability to affect flies as well is huge. And then, if somebody's a plague bearer, you horde spam, like the affliction cyst is also, very viable. It's something where you have 3 options depending on how you build your lists. It's great.
You are a fly man, Austin, and I'd be remiss not to say that, like when I look at the existing index, Affliction Cyst and even Nurgle Menagerie, like people who want to get multiple trees out through the Menagerie, or even like the Affliction Cyst, having that teleporty flies, you've lost them. Like both of them are not here on the screen. I know you're feeling very positive right now, but as a Nurgle person who loves their flies, or maybe someone who wants to talk about more trees, and we just talked about like trees and the castle, how do you feel about these 2 impacts no longer being as an option?
So the tree thing, I don't think is going to impact as much, just because that typically wasn't something that was taken very often. But given the importance of the trees with the War Scroll now, that was something I looked at. But you gave some hidden tech right away. There are ways to manipulate and get your trees in places where they are still going to be beneficial. Horticulus can still do his stuff. Like there's ways to make the trees where they're at. And then the teleporting flies was always fun, but I'll be honest with you, if I was playing somebody who was a little bit more newer to the game, it was really kind of a feels bad. And I know it's kind of an oxymoron to be like, I hate, Seal Club winning per se, or like, winning hard. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you're playing a newer player, and it's like, all right, well, I'm going to drop my stuff because the way you deploy it, I can take, half your army for free right here, or pin you with 1 unit. It is what it is. So I think that kind of takes that feel bad thing away. It is kind of a huge piece as far as competitive play is taken away, but that now you have 3 options where you can still drive the Nurgle vehicle just fine and have awesome options.
So let's talk about the options. So let's go with the big, long TED talk, right? So we've got the Taliban of Nurgle, which is a once per battle army deployment phase ability. So you're picking an enemy unit on the battlefield to the, what is that word? Plague Progdentor, I don't know, whatever, the plague guy, for the rest of the battle. So you can't pick a manifestation or terrain feature. Roll 2d3 on a 6, or if the roll equals or exceeds the plague guy's health characteristic, it has the disease keyword in the first battle round, while the plague dude has the disease keyword. It cannot use or be picked to be the target of any abilities that could heal or return slain models to it. And each time the plague dude is picked to be the target of the spread effect by the Blessed by the Plague Father ability, inflict D3 mortal damage on each other enemy unit within its combat range, excluding manifestations and terrain features, in addition to the effects of that ability. What does that mean?
So a whole lot of that is a 1 or 2 wound unit. You roll 2d3 and pretty consistently you'll be able to disease that unit. I personally wouldn't try to put it on a hero as much as you'd love to be able to just disease a hero right away. I think if you could put it on a nice screen or something like that, so you can kind of whittle away in that sense. So basically it allows you to disease something, and then you know for sure it is going to be diseased because they won't be able to heal it off, which is kind of awesome, because then you're also playing in your opponent's mind before you even play the game, because now they have to deploy in a certain way where they're just like, okay, well, where's he going to put this? And they kind of have to space their army out a little bit more than maybe they usually don't, depending on what type of builds they are.
Yeah, like you're right. Like if you're feeling really lucky and want to gamble, like the 2d3 for a 6 is a great way to go for, like Prince Vordry, for example, hypothetically. But you're going for a 6 on a 2d3. You go for that unit with a health characteristic of 1 or 2. You've got that guaranteed success, and then you really start tapping into the spread ability. But to your point, you start off with any psychological damage as well, given they're thinking like, right, I've got a support hero that is usually within 3 inches of that troop unit that has 1 or 2 health. So you pick the troop unit, then through spread, you can then get to that support hero, that elite unit is sitting behind. If they've maybe spread out their army quite long, like you said, a screen, you could then start spreading disease or start impacting people quite significantly.
Yep. Like Sentinels, something that a Nurgle player always had a very tough time dealing with because we could never get there. Now I have something where I can do that. Now you're spending command points on a rat. Like it gives you a toolkit that, again, it's a very viable option, and it's not something where you're just like, here's a bunch of words and it's nothing. I like this option.
Yeah, I like it a lot. You've got another one, which is the Nurgle's Menagerie, which is companion weapons used by friendly Maggotkin of Nurgle have crit 2 hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one, I again, as a fly player, it's awesome. Orgots, like there's a ton in there that were your companion weapons. If you're playing a mobile flies list with some Maggoth Lords, it really adds to value in there, because you still have this is jumping ahead a bit, but the Lord of Afflictions +1 rend ability is still baked in, so now you can have the flies really having some serious output, as opposed to where like, oh man, I'm rolling 1,000,000 dice and I get like 2 wounds through at the end of it. Now it's a lot, so I think it's another viable option.
This when I was like doing my pre-work on this one, I was like, right, what who does this mostly benefit? People who are running Beasts of Nurgle, Festus, your Maggoth Lords, as you said, your flies. They're the types of units that will benefit most from the menagerie. I don't think I've missed anything too major.
No, I've been holding on to that F word for a while, man. I am excited for Festus. It is going to be fun.
It's the first war scroll we'll actually bring up, because like people, I remember seeing it. I was sitting next to a bunch of people, and I'm like, that thing's like the old, what was I don't know if you know, there was an old Forge World book where you had like the bloat toad. You actually had like a Nurgle, is it Tamar? No, I can't think. I'm not going to go.
Murkon or whatever. I know exactly.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Like it's back. I'm like, Festus is going to sell like hotcakes. Buy Festus from me. Go buy it. But like, it's going to be so good. Like it's a type of model where like, I would start Nurgle for this one model. Like it is sick. So that's a menagerie. If we go into all of this detail and just we're going to be here till Christmas, literally. Plague Cyst, add 5 to the control score of friendly non-hero Rotbringer units while they're wholly within 12 of a demon unit. I'm not a huge fan of this one, and it's very obvious, right? +5 control score for Rotbringers.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I already the way you're already positioned, you should be zoning them off the zone anyways with all your rot swords. Like it's a rule that I don't see. I don't see it adding the value as the other 3 options.
No, like there's definitely still things that you can play around with it, but like not to discredit, but like a +5 bonus is significant. It is a very significant if you're playing in a very MSU style, but it's like compared to the other 3, I think that's like the least of the. But it's not a bad option. It's just not as useful as maybe some of the others. In fact, there's no bad option here. All 4 of these are viable. And then the other one, Affliction Sisters, each time you make a run roll for a friendly non-monster Maggotkin of Nurgle demon unit, you can change the roll to 4. I've been playing it with Hellsmiths lately with my swords, and I bloody love it. Being able to like not use a CP and just guarantee that 4 rolls. So I know for a fact I've got X amount of movement.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is huge to be able to know your averages when you're playing out your turn and you knowing exactly the distance you could potentially have versus having to spend a command point to knowing you need that 6, etc. Like it's really nice to be able to know you have that flat 4.
Yeah, especially like some of these slower units, you can really take advantage of that. Especially like right now in the current season, where might play well to like attune to Gairan and that type of like battle tactics. But overall, pretty good. Lots of changes. We also have changes when it comes to our heroic traits. So you can see, I'm going to do the easy one first. It's the middle one. Grandfather's Blessing has turned from a D6 to a D3. So that one hurts. I can see you like biting your lip on that one, and we all like the D6. There's no hiding that. That was good. You don't have it anymore. It's D3.
Yeah, it's a hard one, but also now when you go through when we go through these other 2 options too, they're all viable. Just going from a D6 now to a D3. And again, we'll go through some other buffs too that have changed. I'm not sure the D3 heal is going to give you as much mileage as potentially the other 2.
No, it feels like they're trying to tone it down to make the other 2 more viable. Gift of Febrile Frenzy has fundamentally changed. So pick in any combat phase, pick a visible, friendly, non-hero Maggotkin of Nurgle unit that is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, add 1 to the attack characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, that's what I'm digging right now, personally, for a couple of the builds in my head. I like the fact that, we have lost the anti-charge. We're going a bit ahead, losing the anti-charge in your castle. Definitely felt like it hurt, but buffs like this kind of make me a little bit more excited because now it's just a little bit of a different avenue where it's like, okay, if I get this one off, now I can really pop off with some crit 2 hits units, etc. And you have like different. I think Gift of Febrile Frenzy from you losing the movement is going to be an interesting aspect to the change, but I like the ability to give a little bit more output potentially on a 3-up. It's pretty reliable.
I love this on a infantry hero sitting behind something like Pestigore or Plague Bearers or Rot Swords, just like taking advantage of not Lookout Sir, what's it called? Guarded Hero. Like just taking advantage, like going up the board. I don't think it has to be on a Guo or some type of Lord of Afflictions. I think this is a really cool heroic trait. But without fanboying, there's obviously still another one we haven't talked about, which is the Overpowering Stench. That has also changed as well. You can see that it's also any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. You and your opponent must roll off. If your roll is higher, pick one of the following effects, either ignoring positive modifiers to save rolls for the target or subtracting 1 from ward rolls for the target.
Yeah.
Now this is changing or taking over from the rolling a dice on a 5-up. There's no command, but it is being spent as a reaction.
2 iterations ago, it was the only trait you pretty much took when it shut off the commands. Then it got toned down to that 5-up like you just read, and just having a 5-up for a maybe as a heroic trait was just a little expensive. It can happen, and when it does, it was pretty backbreaking if you did pull it off for stopping an all-out defense or or a power through, etc., to get them away. But now I think it's fun. It's definitely something where you're playing a game and now you can kind of dictate, like, hey man, we're rolling this together. Here we go. Like, let's see where we go. But it's definitely it's interesting because they're both led to a die roll, right? A 3-up for +1 to attacks, or this one, I have to beat your roll to basically make it so you can't defense and or -1 to your ward.
So of the 3, to summarize this, do you have any favorites or preferences? Do you think all 3 are good, all 3 are bad? Like where do you, what's your summary?
I think the 2 combat orientated ones, as far as Gift of Febrile Frenzy and Overpowering Stench, definitely I like them both neck and neck because they're both very situational and there's still an object of chance into them. The heal, I'm not sure I'm investing in the heal as much right off the rip. We got to see a little bit more points and kind of like in that aspect, but I just right now I'm really kind of digging the ability to give a bunch of rot swords +1 attack. I'm jonesing for that. So
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I will say, like, I'm gonna like partially like gotcha. If Grandfather's Blessing was a brand new ability here, like let's say you had no heal at all, right? This would be a viable choice. Like your D3 heal, yes, please. Like it's the fact that you've gone from a D6 to a D3 that obviously like you know what you had and you don't have. But D3 is still very good. I think all 3 of them are very, very even. I guess depends on what you are and how you're building around things. But I tend to agree with you, but I think we're being a little unfair to Grandfather's Blessing. I think it's still a good, especially because it's both turns, like both at the end of any turn.
Correct. Yeah, I mean there is a big bonus to that inside the fact too that you can pretty much dictate because it's the end of the turn. I am going to disease you, so I know I'm getting that heal. Like you can pretty much guarantee you're going to be getting that heal too on that model, which there is that piece.
Yeah. All right. So again, doesn't feel like we've lost too much. Yes, there's obviously been some changes, but again, we're feeling relatively optimistic, which is nice. Artifacts of Power, and less change, but there are change. The Wither Stave, you can see here has been rewritten. So again, still the declare step and is still the same. You're still rolling a dice. But on a 3+, you are subtracting 1 from the damage characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. Now, previously, this was 4+ strike last.
Yes.
And it cost you 20 points. So I'm assuming it might go back to 0. I don't know.
I think it's definitely going to go back to 0 because the charged stipulation is still in there. The 3-up makes it a little bit more reliable now, which is pretty nice because, I mean, paying 20 points, then having that 50-50 shot at making somebody fight last when it went off. Oh, it was great. But then other times you didn't get it like 3 times in a row and you're just like, why did I pay for this when I could have done something different? So I think they're making it something where it's not as strong as handing out a fight last, but when you have a ward builder caked into your army with some other defensive tech, -1 damage can really neuter kind of maybe that hammer unit that is coming into this model. I like it. I think it's a great option still.
I think it changes the target, right? Like this would be great for like going into an elite unit. Maybe they got like damage 2 or damage 3. You're now bringing it right back down. I love it. I actually like the new Wither Stave. Yes, obviously I love strike last, but on a 4+ based on being the person who charges, there's a lot of conditions to get to that point. The Carrion Dirge has changed the range, so you're still picking 3 enemy units, but it's now 18, not 12. and you're subtracting 5, not 3, to the control score. It was for the rest of the turn. Now it's until the start of your turn. So this has only gone up, right? More subtraction, better range, longer duration.
So the fact that it's until your next turn is kind of nice, as far as if somebody's trying to take a double and bully you, and you can really kind of maybe punish them in the fact that, okay, you're taking the double, you're not getting your tactics. And with this, you could potentially also not be scoring any zones too, because I can make you -5 your control score on that. Maybe redeploy somebody on, or position in a way where I can kind of dictate that. Like, yeah, if I'm playing a Ogre Maw Tribes Beastclaw player that I know he's going to want to take the double, it's like, yeah, you're going to come in, you're going to probably kill some stuff, but now you're not scoring any points too, which, there's an interesting aspect to it. I think it's a healthy change for it. I think it definitely makes it a viable option for a once per battle to kind of avoid you from that deadly early double, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. It's definitely improved, but the biggest improver is the Rust Fang. So, well, I'm going to call it out there. Maybe Austin thinks
this is going to be your 20-point artifact that most people are going to take for sure. But again, you have viable options, but you're hitting the nail on the head for sure.
By the way, Austin says the 20 points he is predicting. Like, we don't have points, so like you might get it for free for 3 months, but like it could go up in points. But so why do I say that? So first off, the Rust Fang used to be a once per battle ability. It's now a every turn ability. Yay! The conditions have changed, so you now can pick a enemy hero or monster. And you're also subtracting -1 to the save roll for the rest of the turn, where it used to be subtract 1 for the rest of the battle. So it's changed a lot. Like, if you think about it, you can use it more often, you can pick it onto a monster, but it's only lasting for the turn rather than the battle, which I think is powerful, because it then means you can start picking multiple targets throughout the course of the game rather than just picking one, it dies, and then you've lost your effects of the Rust Fang.
Yep. I mean, the fact that it's for the turn, there's no die roll included to it. You can reliably build a castle with some rot swords, and like you said, you're one hero who potentially could be sitting there with guarded hero, so you can't get shot off with some other abilities, given your auras. And now when you come in, here's your anti-charge that was potentially taken away. Now you have this another -1 save caked in. It's going to have a ton of utility in different builds. That is for sure.
You could probably like a Lord of Affliction, for example, obviously a great unclean one, but like I think like something like a Lord of Affliction with the Rust Fang on it, zipping around the board, potentially combining it with something like Overpowering Stench and things like that. Like, you've got some nice little combinations already starting to form. So again, I think the only thing is up here, I think, where, other than obviously losing the strike last, I'm feeling pretty positive of these 3 changes.
Oh yeah, I mean, and again, reverting back to my good old flies, but you're getting the crit 2 hits on the flies. They're getting +1 rend on the charge with the Lord of Afflictions, who also has the Rust Fang. Now you're talking rend 2 mount weapons. Like, there's a lot of tech here. It's overall it's all pluses right now.
Yeah, there's some really, really good stuff. Cool. And I'm trying not to be like, toxically positive. Like, if it's bad, we're going to call it out. But I at the moment, I'm feeling like pretty positive of these changes so far. Yeah. Next is a spell lore. So a couple of things have changed. One, your Fleshy Abundance has gone from a casting value of 7. Was it 7? It was 7, right? Fleshy Abundance was 7. It's now 6. It still is your unlimited spell, and everything is the same. So I guess that's an easy one. Like, more casting is better.
So, well, I have some jovial negativity here on this. That's if we would keep it positive, but they originally FAQ'd this spell to where you could pick between the heal or the -1 to wound. And they went back to the original verbiage where you cannot be damaged to get the -1 wound. So if you have a Rotigus or your Guo per se, or your high wound model that has 4 or 5 damage on it, you're now losing your opportunity to give -1 to wound to that model via this spell. So you're maybe casting it 2 or 3 times, hoping you're healing, and maybe even using a rally just to be able to potentially get your -1 wound again. I'm hoping they change that back, but who knows how long, that the print or whatever, but I definitely think that is a big miss on them as far as the spell design, because it just stinks when you have a nice Guo there and you want to really make him tank the world, and then you're like, I'm not going to get -1 to wound back on this model.
We have seen that in the past where, for example, I remember when the Auric War Clan book came out, they had some like updates on Warcom that they basically like went back and said, look, the updates on Warcom are still more accurate, even though the most published book was the Battletome. Not saying that's going to happen here, so like I guess let's cross our fingers. But as it stands, I guess it's old fleshy abundance, but you never know. No promises. But good call out as well. I missed that one. As there's no magenta there. Then there's no magenta. Quagmire hasn't changed, so I'm just going to skip that. But you've lost Buboss, magnificent Bubosses. That one has completely disappeared, and I'll get your opinions in a second. But what you have gained in its place is Crippling Despair, which is a casting value of 6. Pick a friendly Maggotkin of Nurgle wizard, cast a spell, visible enemy within 18. Visible enemy unit within 18, and then roll you 2d6. The target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. So even though we did lose the artifact that was command trait, but we could turn commands off on a 5, we do have a spell fitting in its spot. Do we lose much by not having Bubosses, and what have we gained by taking Crippling Despair?
Huge bonus here. Just a lot of players will try to position, because you are slow. They can put to a spot where they know you're going to come in and set up for a counter charge, or you want to go into this unit and make sure they can all out defense. I think the fact that it's an 18-inch range is phenomenal, and not your jovial 12 or anything like that. I think I'll take this over Bubos all day. I don't think that is any sort of a loss. I'm not going to miss that at all.
Yeah, because Bubos used to give you -1 to hit, -1 to casting, chanting, banishment, and unbinding rolls. Which is useful. Like, that's actually a really good spell. But like, would I prefer that over no commands? Like, no commands just gives you so much versatility, because you could shut down magical intervention, so they don't even need to use the cast, right? You could shut off all our attack, all our defense. You could shut off redeploy. You could shut off, like, there's so many things you can shut off there that yes, you lost something, but I feel like Crippling Despair is definitely better.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So overall mixed bag. We had Fleshy Abundance has gone to the worst version of, or the worst version of it. It's still okay, but Crippling Despair definitely is good.
Yep.
Anything else to add on that one? It feels pretty obvious.
No, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, Quagmire, we went over it quickly, but that spell is also huge for crowd control and limiting what comes into your castle too. Like, it's overall a really good spell lore. I like it, and I've used it quite often, and I will definitely use Crippling Despair more than I probably ever used Magnificent Bubos, to be honest with you. So,
and it's casting value of 6 as well. Like, I'm just going to triple check this in the Battletome. It's 6. No, it's definitely 6. I'm like, no commands on a 6 is very good. I would love that.
Do we have plus to cast built into some War Scrolls too, Coach? I don't know. I think there's a lot of strength in this spell lore.
Well, there might be strength in the spell lore, but what you didn't know, folks, is you've gained a new prayer lore. So this is not the soggy version, and I guess for the next couple of months until the Scourge of Ghyran drops off, we have the Season of Ghyran, you're going to have 2 prayer lores to choose from. Now, in July, whenever the new GHB drops, I say that because July is traditionally when it drops, not that I actually know. You'll have 1 or 2 prayers to choose from. So what do we got here? We've got a whole bunch of things. We've got Gift of Disease, Favored Poxes, and the Bloated with Sickness. So without reading everything on screen here, I guess first and foremost, as a Nurgle player, is prayers one of our strong points? Second question is, you currently have a prayer lore. Which one do you prefer? And then third question is, assuming that Scourge of Gairan drops off, and or there's another version of it,
Sure.
in 6 months' time, when the Great Unclean One can't become a priest, for example, like how valuable is priests in our faction? So like, I've given you a sandbox, go play in it.
And I'll need your assistance on this, Coach, a little bit with my ADHD. I might go down some weird paths, and you might have to keep me with the next two questions. But
I got my fishing line. I'll reel you.
Yeah, keep me out of here, but yeah. So you hit the nail on the head with the Scourge of Gairan ability to make a Guo a priest. I think that makes this prayer lore a little bit interesting, because now I'm putting that big base model in the middle of somebody's army. And I am now, with how the wording is for your -1 to wound spell, you now have the prayer where you can get -1 to wound by everything in melee with him, and then you can potentially disease everything as well if you get that 10 up. So there's value to there. It's a 3-up, so it's pretty reliable prayer to get off with that, which I really, really like. The Favored Poxes part of this prayer lore too gives you a little bit more of a crowd control, which I really like. If you get that 10 off and you're only rolling the 1 dice charge, you see the strength of that with sharks and crowd controlling people, and making sure what engagements are happening. That's also pretty solid. The Bloated with Sickness is nice too, because you can ignore that first point of damage. I wish it was an aura like LRL has, and a couple other armies like Hellsmiths as well. But the fact that it's only 1 unit, or on a 10 up, it's 2 units, still pretty strong. So as far as if I was going to pick between the two prayer lores, it all depends on what type of list I'm building. I'm still a big fan of the Harbingers that can still be obscured, and there's no range having on your prayer. So him being able to sit on a place of power and then puke on somebody is pretty phenomenal still. So it all depends on the builds. I think this one's definitely viable, but the ability to get +2 inches of movement is going to be huge for a Rot Sword build, etc. So, right now I like both. Honestly, there's two different ways. Sometimes you got to go with what you know. So the Soggy Prayer lore is a little bit more comfortable. I'd have to get some games in, seeing how this kind of dictates my other games. But I like the fact that, I can cloying Cragmire 1 unit, and now I'm going to Favored Poxes another. And now it's like, okay, you can go ahead, you take that double turn or whatever. You're crowd controlled. So, because it's until the start of your next turn. So, there's things where you can put that out there and give somebody 2 turns, and you're like, you're not getting to me type deal.
I will say as well, and this is going a little ahead. So the Harbinger is definitely our primary priest. Yes, the Scourge of Gairan can give us priest abilities, things like that. The other thing I will say, and lock this in the memory bank, is that Belga is also a priest. So you do have another priest that you can be playing around with. So I was thinking, for example, if I was running the Sloven Knights, for example, how cool would it be having that Harbinger supporting the Sloven Knights, throwing out the Gift of Disease? I could see some nice little play kind of coming out here. But again, are you building into priests, into wizards, into both? And obviously the power of this book is going to come through big heroes, but also big blocks of troops. So I like it overall. I love the fact that even if Scourge of Gairan does drop off in 6 months' time, you still have a prayer lore. What's better, what's worse? I guess you pick what's best for you. But I think they both offer some interesting things.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And with the Harbinger build too in there, it running him in there with the Sloven Knights, which we'll get to. They have abilities where you can kind of make sure maybe that Harbinger is living in melee with them because of this Gift of Disease too. So,
And the Harbinger never really had a unit to support like the Sloven Knights. Like you didn't really have the Cav. So I think the Harbinger kind of comes to life a little bit with some of these new units. So again, you didn't lose anything. You've only gained it. And if you don't like this, then move along. Don't use it. Don't use a priest. Don't use this particular prayer law. Like whatever. But I think they're decent.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely an option.
All right. Speaking of options, I'm not ready for this. There's so many new units. Like, why couldn't you be like a normal Battletome that's like, here's a foot hero? Like, no, we have to drop a whole new line of Nurgle.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready, Austin?
I'm ready to roll. Let's do it.
Oh my god. Oh, here we go. All right. So first off is everyone's favorite new unit, which is Festus the Leechlord. And there's a lot going on here. There's melee profiles. There is health 14, saver 4, 5-up ward. You've got some stuff here. Without reading it all, what's your first take on Festus? And then we can get into the weeds.
First take on him, fun model that tanks and can really put a thorn in an opponent's side where they're going to have to really commit a lot more than they probably want to get rid of him, because if you let him snowball with some of his abilities, like the engorgement where he potentially can have like a 10-15 control score, like there's just a lot to it where he just got so much fun abilities in him. He can really affect monsters and melee with them. The crit mortals on his Fanged Maw could be a lot of fun too. You could just, here's 6 mortals, sorry about it, So there's that, or if you wanted to go, because he is Ren 2, if you had a melee with the Rust Fang for Ren 3, you can switch it to the crit 2 hits as you bring him, and now you're potentially really throwing out some damage with him. I think it's a lot of fun, and then he also has some healing ability with his War Scroll spell with the, it is a 3-up to heal, but I think overall the 4-up save, 5-up ward, and in the different abilities baked in, he's going to be on the table depending points. Of course, we don't know points, but they hit the nail on the head with him as far as abilities, and kind of a fun tanking unit that really dictates his area of play is awesome on the table.
I think one of the more interesting rules, and it's a very subtle rule, but certainly one that I think is going to pique people's interest, is that he's a wizard 2. And really, like, your only wizard 2s, correct me if I'm wrong, is Rodigus, Great Unclean One. Yeah. Like you don't have many options to get double wizard. So I think this is one, a viable option. 2, like when I look at this profile, it reminds me a lot of a Maggotkin. And I just think there's a lot of really interesting rules, like the Leechlord curse. Each time the target uses a core ability or command, there's a whole bunch of things that you can play around with here. Like this is going to play a utility piece role where it's not going to be upfront. You need to protect Festus. Like, mind you, 14 health, 4-up save, 5-up war is relatively tanky. It's not impossible to take down, but still a very good particular rule. I can see this being very popular. I can see this being a very popular particular piece. Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do with it, and you hit the nail on the head, right? Like Blowab, spoiler alert, he's losing his -1 to hit aura. Bummer. So now it's at the point where now I can bring Festus, who's a 2-cast wizard, and arguably he can do damage. He can do a ton of damage. His combat ability is awesome. He can just outright slay one model, which would then tick off your engorgement. Like there's a ton of fun stuff with Festus. He's going to be, they hit the nail on the head on creating a new unit that can definitely is something different and fun.
It's a bit worrying, right? Because when you look at, for example, I'm going to go back to the Leechlord's curse, right? So what's a core ability? A normal move, a run, a charge, a shoot, a fight, using a command. Obviously, it's not core, but it's on the scripting there. Like on a 3+, you are triggering a mortal damage, and then Festus is healing itself every time that unit is going to move, shoot, run, charge, whatever. Like that's one, going to keep this model around for a long time. 2, because of that 18-inch range, you don't have to be close to the fights. You can be hiding behind a screen. You could be just like powering up so you can really dominate quarter the middle of the late game. Like this has got a lot of play, and it's not obvious at first, but when you put this on the table, you're going to really appreciate Festus. I mean, mind you, you might look at his War Scroll and love it, but I'm a big fan, and also as an opponent, I'm worried. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, we don't know points, right? Sometimes we're a little bit higher when we first come out as far as Maggotkin, so we'll see where he goes. But
let's predict it. Let's predict it now. Let's without points. Let's actually predict. All right, like what do we think? And almost like how much is too much? Almost like if this was like 600 points, like Festus, not a good pick. But like, what's the range that you would pay for a model like this points wise?
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm looking at Blow Up right now, who's 300 points, right? Very similar profile. We are getting a Wizard 2, which they are going to make us pay for. We're losing 3 inches of movement, but I would have to say he's going to be 350, and I would pay it. I would pay it. 350, and I would pay it.
My guess was 360 before, like you said your name, so number. So, obviously, like we all want them cheaper, right? Like we all want them cheaper. Like give them to me 300, of course.
Yeah.
But if we're hitting the 400, then we're starting to really be in the territory of like Guo territory, and it's like, what do you need more? And I'd probably lean towards more of a Guo at that 400 mark. But when we're in that mid 300s, I think we're in a good spot.
Hey, I'm a sales by trade. That's my career. If the sales manager at GW wants to sell some Festuses, 300 points for this bad boy. Let's go.
Don't do that, because then like the points will go up and people will get angry. But then I get to buy cheaper Festus on the secondhand store.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. That's true too.
All right, overall, good unit. I think we both like it. Points dependent. I guess the question is like, is this an auto include in Nurgle? I'm going to say no. Like, it's definitely good. It's like A tier, but I don't think it's like auto include. I don't think everyone was going to want to use it, but I don't think you have to have it.
Yeah, this isn't Uruk-Tar, right? Like, this isn't the model that's coming out where we necessarily have to play it. I think he's definitely got some play in different stuff, but again, we have a lot to go through, so you're going to see why there's other relevant stuff that may maybe make him not an auto-include.
That Vile Poisons, I love that as well. Like, it's just there's so many cool rules. This reminds me a lot like a Manfred or a Neferata style model, where it's like in the backfield, just being annoying and then striking when it needs to strike, and you've done the damage, things are diseased, and you just get to like do its thing.
Yep.
I love this model. Other models is it Gelgus Pust? So we've got a move of 8, 3 up save, 5 up ward, health of 8, some interesting rules. He flies, which I'm going to triple check that's correct. Like he's got wings on his back. That's right.
He does. He's got other wings, folded in fly wings. Yep.
Yeah. I love that. It's a cool model. This is a cool model. What are your thoughts on Gelgus?
I really, really like him. On a competitive standpoint, looking at that 8 wounds, he's flying, but he is infantry, so he can still be guarded. But the 3 up, 5 up, it's one of those things where he's durable. But if you look at his rules, that's where the fun really comes in. Not only is it a beautiful model, it's going to be fun to put on the table and hobby up, but the fact that he adds to your healing. He also subtracts from a people's healing with his polluting aura, where you can kind of add to these trees that's your slingshotting around the map. He also has one of the coolest rules, I think, just thematically, is the grin of the grandfather, right? Like, he's got the smile that we all are used to seeing in the drawings or whatnot from the old days with the guos in the paper. Like, the fact that rule is also probably one of the I like it because it's one of the most beneficial rules, and the fact that you get your opportunity for your -1 to hit rolls in combat. Granted, you have to exceed their control score is a little bit more, you're not really giving -1 hit out to a monster like you were with Blob on a 4-up, right? Like Sons of Behemoth's coming in. This rule is not doing a lot, but for him fighting on a flank versus, let's call it, some Fell Riders or something on the side where he could be. It's a fun rule that really dictates it. And then of course the dirty D3 mortal wounds on the charge is fun.
Yeah, there's a lot to like here. When you look at the Master Contaminator, as you said, picking the terrain feature, making it polluted, then through the pollution, starting to play around with, you can read the rules there. The Grin of the Grandfather definitely is like the standout rule here. The challenge that I have with Gelgus, and it's not a Gelgus problem, it's a demon prince, God-marked ascendant rival. Like, you've got like this is always playing very much in that kind of ROR space. And like, do you have both? And definitely in Nurgle, that Godmark Descendant has definitely been very popular of late.
Great job.
Do you run both? Do you run one? And if you run one, which one are you going to run? Now Gelgus definitely does bring some interesting things, but we know how smashy that Demon Prince can be. So again, it's not a Gelgus problem. It's just like, where does it fit and what do I do with Gelgus?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective in the mirror match, I liked seeing the opponent because the Cloying Quagmire really kind of hamstrung my opponent's Demon Prince, which was very nice in that ability where we can do that, where you're not getting that Corpulent Avalanche off as much and doing as much damage with that. So like, as far as a Maggotkin, you have abilities to really dictate that model. I think it all comes down to the points. With Gelgus, I could see him being a lot cheaper, less wounds, not as damaging. So there's that, like, you have the crit auto wound versus the crit mortals, which is a little bit of a difference there. If I had to choose, I'm probably sticking with the Corpulent Avalanche Army Renown, to be honest. But I still think it's a great model. Gelgus is awesome. There's stuff he can do. He's definitely not something where you're just like, I'm not going to play that model. He's an option.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. I think, like, if I'm thinking about using this Gelgus, it's in a completely different style to the Demon Prince. Demon Prince is often like a smash bat. It does its own thing, independent, and it's just annoying. This model, Gelgus, feels like it should be supported with whether it's Plague Bearers, Rot Swords, and I think it's a force multiplier with a unit. Not necessarily like buffing up that particular unit, but I don't think it's a solo piece like the Demon Prince. I like it, and it plays a very different, unique part, but I think it's competing with points. And I'm imagining the points are similar, like that 2 to 250 mark.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess. That's my guess.
Yeah, again, with it only being 8 wounds, a little bit less, I could see it being a little bit lower. But yeah, it's all speculative. It's usually our points when we first come out with Maggotkin were usually pretty on the higher end when we first come out.
Any final comments before we move forward?
No, I'm ready for the next one.
What do you think it is going to be?
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be.
All right, surprise, it's Belga. So Belga the Cystwitch, love this model. I didn't fully appreciate it until you got the 360 view and see the whole worm body. Like, I'm like, oh, at first I'm like, oh, it's like a big worm that's about to put into the pot. And then he's like, oh no, it's actually the body of Belga. Love the sculpt. It's very cool. So as we mentioned, it is our second native priest. It has the traditional infantry hero stat line with the 3 attacks, 4s, 1 for D3. One thing I'll say, probably I will talk about this in the changes stat, but you'll notice that all of your Rotbringers now have a 6-up ward, not a 5-up ward. And Belga is the first one to be on the screen, but we'll call it out later just as an FYI. So what do we got here? We've got the Scurry of Filth. So Scry the Filth, in your hero phase, pick one of the following effects to apply for the rest of the turn, adding +1 to casting for Maggotkin Wizards or +1 chanting for Maggotkin Priests, both while they're within 3 inches of this model. Love this. Then you have the Ruptured Cyst, which is its own prayer. Picking a visible diseased enemy unit within 18 to be the target, make a chanting roll, inflict D3 mortal damage to the target, then inflict 1 mortal damage on each other diseased enemy unit within 3 inches of the target. If the chanting roll was 9+, you can pick a friendly Blade Bearers unit within 12 of the target. For each enemy infantry model slain, you can return 1 slain model to the Plague Bearer unit. Thoughts?
Yes. This is what I was alluding to with the no commands spell. This model, I think, because usually it was pretty hard this last book to get a lot of our spells off if you're not bringing Rotigus with the plus to cast. It was pretty punishing to not, roll that average dice of 7 what it's supposed to be. But you could go 3 turns and not get, your 7 to cast off. Now that we're getting +1 and it's a 6 for 2 of your pretty important spells, so you're getting it off on 5s. I think she's great. The fact that she's another priest that comes in is also huge as well. So she can help with that crowd control with the -2 to charge rolls. Like there's a lot here to unpack. The one thing is on the 9-up for just solely Plague Bearers units, and you're not super missing it because her, what's D3 damage on a 4-up for another prayer? There's still value there even if you're not bringing the Plague Bearer unit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because even though she is a Rotbringers unit, the synergy definitely leans in more towards the demon side, and obviously having those Plague Bearers to be able to return slain models. I love that. Now, granted, that does require you a chanting roll of 9+, but there's definitely not a lot of synergy with the Rotbringer, but even just the +1 to casting and chanting is a huge benefit. So you're definitely not going to have this in the front line. It's not a Guo. It's not like a tanky kind of hero, but this is a solid piece. This one is going to be, this one feels definitely like a points dependent choice. Like, how much would I pay for Belga? I'm going to make the first guess, and I want you to tell me where you're at. Again, obviously, like less is more. We all want it. We want it free. I get it. How much would I pay for Belga? 170, 160, 170. I don't know. What's your feel?
The fact that she's a priest and she has such amazing rules built into her war scroll. And at 7 health, mind you, for a foot hero, 7 health is awesome when you're going to keep her by a tree. So she also has a 5-up ward. So she's going to be quite survivable. I mean, 170 I'm paying all day. I'm thinking she's going to come out about, and I hate the prices right, that 180, 190 mark. I could see her coming out on, because she's, such a force multiplier with the +1 to cast, +1 to chant. That is going to be huge because there's so much value in our spell lore, honestly.
Yeah, I price it off like Daughters of Cain with Crethusa, that glorified infantry priest. That's she's like that 170, 180. So that's kind of roughly where I'm thinking. I can't see her breaching 200. And if she does, I reckon she'll go down below that. But again, this is really obvious, like doing damage through the prayer, and by you as well. Prayers often don't have an 18-inch range. They're often 9 or 12. So the fact that this is 18 is very generous, playing around with all the stuff we've talked about as well about around disease. Then doing damage, going up for those 9+s to then start going off and giving there's so many good things here. Again, not an auto. I'm going to say it's not an auto include. That's certainly a very good choice, especially if you're someone who wants to tap into those double wizards. You've got some really good spells you want to get off, or prayers you want to get off. I like it. Like Rodigus, for example, the synergy I think is incredible between Belga and Rodigus.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head where I don't think she's an auto include, but that's also going to be based off points. If she's budgeted at a really decent price, I think you're always going to take her just for that force multiplier, though.
I think she's an auto include if you take a Taliban of Nurgle battle formation. Like outside of, if you're not taking Taliban, I think she's like a very, very good choice. But I think in a Taliban, she's almost auto include.
Yeah, or I mean, like we said, another option too if we're doing the control score battle formation as well, because now she's keeping that tar pit alive as well, passing out, bringing some plague bearers back too.
Yeah, I do love the synergy with the Plague Bearers. Make Plague Bearers great again. But not too great. I remember second edition where they were like, you got a double reinforced unit. It was like -2 to hit and -1 to shooting and like all this craziness. Like I just grind my gears. Don't do that.
I didn't play in the era where ones to hit did mortal wounds back. I liked that rule. I've always heard about it. I wish I could have used that for my side, but I heard those were good times.
I carry the scars of the past. Second of all, now this is a really interesting one because I'm not going to make this comparison, right? Because you had Blightkings. This is a completely different Blightkings unit, right? Completely different. So don't make the comparison. It's a brand new unit, basically, right? So what have you got? So you've got a pretty relatively good infantry unit, right? Health of 3, 5 up save. It's an elite unit. You got use Pox blighted weapons, 4 attacks each, 3 threes, Ren 1 for 1 damage, anti-priest, anti-wizard. Interesting rule. Then you have this discomforting stench, which is a once per turn army ability, end of any turn, picking a visible enemy wizard or priest within 12, rolling a dice if the target is a wizard and the roll exceeds the target's power level. Until the start of your next turn, each time a casting roll for the target includes 2 or more 1s or 2s, or more rolls of 2 or 2 or more 3. The spell is miscast. If the target is a priest, repeat very similarly, but each time your opponent makes an unmodified chanting roll of 1 or 2 for the target, the prayer fails and the effect is not resolved, and your opponent must remove D3 ritual points to the target.
You did better than me reading that.
Oh,
let me
gosh.
tell you, it took me a few times.
Yeah, it took me a few like what? Huh?
Yeah, I skipped calculus. Let me tell you. So
Basically, it is a improved miscast. Basically, like it is a improved miscast.
Yeah. It's I think that you're not bringing 20 of these guys anymore, right? Or 30. The fact that you can maybe use the gut rot spume, throw them in on the side and really kind of maybe mess up somebody's wizards for a turn because you could be outside of 9, somehow get them in so they're within 12, depending on how deployments are and stuff. You can really start to bully their casting and kind of punish them. I think there's some definite uses for this to really get in there. I think it's there's also an ability that got added into the foot hero that goes with the Blightkings that kind of makes them ethereal, where you can't negatively impact their save, which is another piece where you can create a decent castle with them, and they're still viable. I don't think you're bringing a bunch of them, but maybe a reinforced unit. They're still an option.
And they are, and it is an end of turn ability there. So it's once per turn army. So you're not going to be able to stack it multiple times. So there's some interesting rules here. And certainly playing around with Lord of Blights as well. There could be some really interesting play here. It is obviously very specific to wizards and priests. So what would I pay for this? I like it. It's a very niche pick, a very meta pick. Definitely not auto include. This is an optional piece, and I don't know if this is strong. I don't know if Discomforting Stench is strong enough.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it. I'm on the fence with this unit because it's elite, but it's not super elite. It's 3 health, 5 up save, 6 up ward. It's a interesting rule because you got to be within 12 inches of the wizard or the priest. So it's a relatively short distance.
Yep.
It's interesting, but it's not like a combination of 1, 2s, or 3s. You've got to have double 1 or double 2 or double 3. It's not, if I roll a 1 and a 2, this ability doesn't trigger. It's only if I roll double 1, double 2, or double 3.
That's how I interpret it as well. So it's just it's super situational. The fact that it has anti-priest or anti-wizard can kind of make them bully maybe a front piece model like an Arcan or somewhere you do get to that Ren 2 point where it can get a little interesting, right? But I'm not paying more than 180 points for 5. That's for sure.
I think this ability is actually better against priests because it's guaranteed 1 or 2, while the I haven't done the maths on the wizard side, but I think that it's pretty unlikely to roll a double 2 or a double 3. So if it was a combination of like 1, 2s or 3s, then I'd probably be a bit more high on this. But it's interesting. I'm not sold. It's okay. Cool model. Definitely not auto include.
No.
It's decent.
It is.
All right, move along. It's fine. It's fine. Like, look, if you like it, it's fine. And I'm sure I could definitely come up with some ways to do it. Sorry. One thing I did want to talk about here. Now, we were debating or discussing prior to this as well around how this works with the what's it called, the sacred rites. So because sacred right, like the way sacred rites and you're removing ritual points, do I remove 1, do I remove 3? This is basically like a passive ability from my understanding. Like I was sitting there kind of talking to some people around like how abilities kind of work, and long story short, like this is not going to override the sacred rite. So it's still going to be D3 ritual points disappearing.
Yeah.
So
that is nice because with that, I think they did FAQ that too, where the 2 still get you whatever if you do the original chanting. Correct.
Yep. Yes. All right. I think we spent too much time on these Blightkings.
Yeah, these next guys are way more interesting.
Yeah, the Cankerborn. So this, if you bought your Warhammer Quest Dark Water, was it Dark Water?
Yep,
Dark Water, yeah. So I was looking around for my box, like, where is it? Like, there it is. But Dark Water, like Dark Souls, Dark Reaper, Dark Water. So this is a part of that, and the Cankerborn certainly interesting, right? It is unique. It's a hero, infantry, water 5 up. Has some interesting rules: 4 attacks, 3/3s, Ren 1, 3 damage, crit mortals. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some really interesting rules. Give you the first shot at this, and then we can talk about some of the rules and some of how things go about.
Yeah. So this is it's a very interesting model because forgive me if I'm wrong if I'm reading this correctly. Entropy endures. If this unit is 2 or more is 2 models and would be automatically destroyed, is not, and one's automatically and one is destroyed instead. So say if I'm fighting a Gatebreaker and he just one-shots it through that flail attack sequence, I'm only losing 1 model regardless of the damage. Am I reading that one correctly?
It's about 2 more models are destroyed. No, see, so what you'd be doing is, so for example, like Hand of Dust with Nagash or Slayer of Kings with Archaon, for example, where it just straight deletes. Because like a Gatebreaker, for example, is doing just damage points. Yeah, okay. So the damage points would still carry through, but something like Slayer of Kings, Hand of Nagash, where it's just straight delete. It's just one model disappears. Similar to
super situational rule then for something that I mean, honestly, the fact that you have a teleporting unit with the polluted, and then here's where the Gelgus Pust, his scroll wins over the army, the Regiment of Renown, because now you're also maybe, you can kind of ping pong these guys around the map with him moving around and polluting places because their teleport is pretty awesome. And then you can, and it's a within 12 instead of a wholly within 12 ability too. So some huge pieces of terrain that are on some tables, you can, tag that, and then you can teleport to the other side of that terrain because they are only 4 inches of movement. So there's a ton of utility to this unit. And then of course the 8 attacks at 3 damage crit mortals is super attractive.
I think what makes this really interesting as well is unless this gets FAQ'd after the Battletome, you could pick a Feculent Narmor as one of your terrain features. So you could be teleporting around, especially if you're growing trees through the course of the game. This could be a really interesting little assassin jumping around. 5-up ward, good combat profile. I don't mind it. Yeah, like it's 6 wounds. You add the 5-up ward. It's essentially a glorified 9 health model. Like when you start factoring in wards, pretty good. I think points will depend on this, but I like it. Is it a role though that I need? I think that's the real question here. And maybe if I'm not running the big boys like Rodriguez, Glocken, Gluo. And I'm really building into my infantry, this might give me some of that combat monster that I kind of need. And it is a little unassuming. For the model, it does way more damage than you would think it would do. Like it's unassuming.
Yeah. There's a mental game with the ability to teleport and move. Granted, it is only a 4 control score unit, right? But still, it's interesting as far as the ability to just put something maybe where your opponent isn't expecting.
Yeah. I think, how much would you pay for this one? This is the one where it's like, I'm a little unsure. Like my first gut says 200. I don't know if that's too much. I feel like it might be too much, but I don't know. I'm going to go 200 is the number like it first comes to mind.
200, 220 for sure. I could see that there. Just the mobility aspect of it, you might have to pay for that.
Yeah. And look, like that whole teleporting stuff and the fact that, I think the teleporting gives you a real unique feature in the army. Mm-hmm. And given that you struggle often with movement, this could give you a new tool, especially when it comes to battle tactics, especially like going off and going to target weaker parts of the army, because this certainly can go score backfield objectives and side objectives, assuming teleport goes in your favor and all that stuff. And this is the type of unit that can hold an objective relatively well because of not the control score, but actually the profile.
Yeah, the damage profile is nice, the health, the survivability, and then also the fact that it's just infantry too. Obscuring is everywhere. It's a super valuable rule right now, and the fact that infantry can abuse it. So you can teleport from one terrain, or if you're teleporting to a forest, you're within the inch, you're obscured. So it's definitely, I think the unit's got some utility. It's got to be, see where it's pointed, and again, what type of build.
Yeah, and you could always combine it with like Gelgus, for example, where you're combining this with the pollutant tokens as well, and that could give you. But again, then you're paying probably approximately like 400, 450 for those that pair. There's some nice little tricks there. Oh, Neferata's Dagger as well is another one that can auto slay you. But yeah, like you kind of get the point. So interesting model. I wouldn't say auto-include. Definitely brings a different dimension to your army, especially if you are going to be playing around with the teleport shenanigans. Any final comments from you, Austin?
Nothing. I'm dying to talk about these next guys.
It's the Beast of the Nurgle, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, welcome to your new addiction, folks, and go buy them again. Element Games, Warfire Minis, or Gap Games if you're depending on if you're in America, USA, or Australia. Rot swords. So, solid profile, 2 health, 3-up save, 6-up ward. Profile, 2 attacks, 3 threes, rend 1 for 1, crit 2 hits. Then you've got this any combat phase ability where you pick an enemy unit that's charged this turn as in combat with this to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3+, the target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. Comes in a unit of 10. So we can reinforce. I assume we're going to reinforce them. I assume. Unless it... I mean, I don't know, but I assume they're going to be able to. Could be a unit of 20. Talk to me about this unit and why are we both thinking like this is going to be at least the first unit that's going to be like the auto include in the new book?
It definitely feels that way. And that's not to counter anything else that we've talked about. It's just this is the first unit where I look at it and it's like, yes, I want 3 reinforced units of Rot Swords on the table and just put them out there. The Musician, we haven't gotten to the tree yet with how much they heal, how durable this unit is. When you come in, I have an opportunity that I'm usually going to get the ability to not let you use commands. So if I have the hero in there with Rustfang, so now I'm making you -1 save as well on there. If I hit that 3 up to give these guys each 3 attacks, so now you're talking a unit of 20. It's a lot. Crit 2 hits on it. Like there's a lot. There's the hero that you're going to probably put the Rustfang on that has an ability that gives +1 to wound. So there's so much to this unit where the synergies, you can see this is kind of maybe something they had in mind for us to build around, and it's pretty obvious, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's where I started with. It's a forgiving army to play. That's who these guys are. They're going to be something that's super durable. It's going to be a problem for people to move, and it's going to be something fun for the Nurgle player to play with.
Yeah, like when I first look at this is essentially your Blight King unit of old. Now, yes, it has 1 less health than Blight Kings, but it is double the model count. Blight Kings were 5 models, so you get them up to a unit of 10 max. This is a unit of 10, so you can get them assuming up to 20 models, which would be 40 health on a 3-up save, base of 6 up, that can be a 5, and we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
And then you start to look to your set. Like I thought about like a blank canvas, right? You could apply some of Gelgus Pust abilities, or some of like Fleshy Abundance, or the Lord of Plagues, or Blowab, or like there's so many things that can be applied onto these Rot Swords that this almost feels like my starting infantry unit. So like my Hellsmiths, for example, I have my 2 units of cohort. This to me feels like I would have 1 or 2 units of Rot Swords in my list. And then I lay upon like what's the buffs, what's the types of heroes that best support the unit. It's not like it's a overpowered unit. Like the profile is decent. It's not like it's the craziest unit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be durable as all hell. Like this is going to be, especially a reinforced unit, a very tough nut to crack.
Yeah. I want all of it. Let's do it.
Oh, and by the way, you then chuck it into Plague Cyst, and you're getting those crit 2 hits. Whoa, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, sorry, not crit 2 hits. What am I talking about? Sorry, with the crit 2 hits, like it's you don't, like you can do so many so many things. Ignore that. Sorry, you already got crit 2 hits. Like, it's so good.
It's real good.
Question is though, how many points?
You're going to be about 250. I think you're going to be at the 250 mark on these bad boys.
Yeah, okay, that seems relatively, that probably, either 240, 250. That would.
If we're going lower, I'm all yours, but I think it's going to be around the 250 mark.
Oh, sorry, it was Plague Cyst. Sorry, what I was thinking, like, no, it's the Menagerie does crit 2 hits for companions. I was right where I was going the first time. I doubted myself. With the +5 objective control.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where I was going with it. Like,
sure.
Like I second doubted myself for a second. That's where I was going with the Plague Cyst. But I still think like Tally
bodies is going to be. You're never taking the zone back. Yep.
But almost like, is it too much? Like, if you've got +5 OC plus the reinforce, maybe that's actually then makes you run minimum size units instead of reinforced units, because then like these units of 10 running around with objective control bonus. Okay, maybe that would be the better approach.
Yeah,
maybe. You can see us thinking through, or at least I'm thinking through in real time.
As far as availability, yeah. I mean, it's it's an option, and I think it's going to be a very, very strong castle, and that's my play style. I enjoy it, and I think these guys are right in line with that.
Yeah. Alrighty, next one is the Sloven Knights. So, what? Sorry.
I wanted him to be so good. I'll jump into it. I was so hyped for the Nurgle Vanguard. That was my dream, and it's not there. It's not there.
So what do we got? First off, what have we got? And then you can tell me what you're missing or what the opportunity here is, right? So Sloven Knights, we've got movement of 8, 3 up, say 4 health, decent attack profile, like 2 attacks, 4 threes, 2 for 2, +1 damage on the charge. That's actually quite decent outside of the 4+ to hit, but even then, all that attack is going there if you're taking your Sloven Knights. The Pale of Exhaustion once per turn, any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. Add 1 to the roll if the target is in combat with other friendly Rotbringers units. On a 3+, the target has strike last for the rest of the turn. So what's missing here for you? Like, I know we were talking just before we kicked off. We're like, we both agreed that Sloven Knights probably are the ones that we were expecting maybe to be a little better.
So this war scroll is great. I want to put out there the ability to hand out strike last is a toolkit that any good player would love to have access to. It's phenomenal. I was looking for a unit that I could, like, if I know I'm going into a Sons of Behemoth matchup, I have that hammer where I know I can get rid of a giant in a turn. These guys are not going to be that unit. But what they're going to do is they're going to allow you to gang up, kind of do a gang posse type play style where you're handing out the strike last. So it's not only a combination of their damage, the Harbinger that's probably going to be with them, but also maybe the Rot Swords that are also with you. So it's a combination piece that kind of is a force amplifier in that sense versus just an overall hammer. I guess that's kind of where I'm at. I really wanted to have, some very simple Vanguard play where I'm just bullying you with some awesome looking Sloven Knights and they just drive themselves. But really with the play style that I think with this war scroll that they're showing us is they really want us to have this synergistic castle.
So I would say, so I'm probably not as down on them as you are. Not to say that you're down on them, but like you were expecting them to be more Vanguard. I think that they are way more like Chaos Knights, and I think that's not a bad thing because you already have your Vanguard in your Putrid Blightlords. Yes, they're different. Don't at me in the comment section. I understand the differences, but they are like people go, oh, they're Vanguard. Trust me, I know, but like they are your elite. Yes, they're not the damage dealers, but like they do decent damage. But they are the elite cavalry in your army. They play that particular role. This, to me, the Sloven Knights are more of the Chaos Warriors, and they play well with something like supporting the Glotkin, maybe supporting or playing around with Horgoths. I see them playing a role in that particular style with those types of characters, but they're not going to be in every list because they are the Vanguard list and they are solo independent Vanguard. Yeah. I think that is your flies. That's your 2 flies, whether you support them with a Lord of Affliction or not. Your flies do fly things. That's how I look. That's how I look at it. It doesn't make it right. It's just how I look at the unit.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very fair take. I mean, it's going to be one of those things where you are taking them as the elite, synergistic piece with the rest of the stuff we're going over. They are not that. I'm going to take 20 of these guys in a list, and that's all it is.
I think they're competing for the same spot. Like if I look at them, right, your Blight Lords have more toughness and probably do more damage than the Sloven Knights. But the Sloven Knights have a better save, better rend, and the base damage is like it's on par, right? So like they're playing in a very similar spot. It's just that they do 2 different things. So depending on what you need, I think it's an interesting choice. I think again points is going to be a big thing here. I don't hate them, but I definitely think that they play in a particular style, like I said, with Rodigus, with Horgots, for example, where their values probably increase quite significantly.
Yeah. Just the fight last it's a strong ability.
Yes, given that we already lost the strike last from another set of rules we already talked about, this is a nice way to bring it in.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's also any combat phase, which is even nicer.
And chances are you're going to be melee with Rot Bringers too, so that a 2-up is fun. It's fun to roll 2-ups.
2-up strike last is very delicious. My question is, how many points? Is a unit of 5? Is it a unit of 5? It's a 5, right? Or is it 3? What am I?
I think it's.
I haven't got.
Let's
have a look.
Look
at the book.
3.
Oh, it doesn't even have a champion. That's why the number's not there. All right. Like, it's like 1 in 3 is champion. 1 in 3 is banner bearer. There's no banner bearer. There's no musician on this unit.
It's just 3, correct?
I think it's either 3 or 5. I have to have a look. I'm not seeing it on the book.
Either way, 6 or 10 attacks. 4s to hit. The damage 3 is nice. Rend 2 is really nice. So if you get it through, it's slapping. But yeah, I mean, if we're looking at a 3-man unit, which I think it is, I could have sworn it is a 3-man unit.
Yeah, I want to think it's 3, but like I have this gut feeling it's a 5 as well. I'm not quite confident, and I also don't want to get up and try to find the box because then we'll have to shut down the hell stream.
No, you're fine. 3-man unit. I'm saying 180.
I was gonna say 180. That was my number.
Yeah, that's where I think they're gonna be 180 for that for sure.
All right. We got more units to talk about. The next one is Pestigore doing Pestigore things. Save a 5, 6 up, 2 health. More health than I thought they would get, but 2 health is okay. 2 attacks, force 3 is nothing for 1, and they've got their passive ability, which gives them +1 to the Rend characteristic for melee weapons while they're not within enemy territory. Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a unit where, for me, is gonna come down to a points thing. We're gonna come to their shaman here who's coming up, who definitely adds value to them, where you could potentially have the heroic trait and then a war scroll ability go off, and they're at 4 attacks apiece. I just don't know if I want to spend that many resources in for a 4s, 3s, no rend, 1 damage depending on where they're at on the map type deal. Pestigores are just there's something we all wanted to come to the table at some point. We're dreaming about Pestigores coming here. I just with these rules, I feel like you gotta have a lot of moving parts to maybe make these things work a little bit more. The fact that they are a rot bringer, so depending on the points on where they're at, they're a nice chaff unit that can potentially still disease with that new rule, where if the unit dies on a 3-up, you can still disease.
I wonder if this is a really good home field or flank objective scoring unit, right? You got a unit of 10, let's say they're about 90 to 100 points. They definitely can't be more expensive or as expensive as Plague Bearers, who are currently 140. Given they both got 2 health, they both got in a similar way. Do you have them sitting on your home field objective and or the flanks, especially when you're not in enemy territory? Now, that obviously plays a part as well with neutral territory. So in those battle plans where you've got neutral territory, they'll still get the +1 rend. It's only with those battle plans that are like half that you want to be careful where you're keeping them to get that +1 rend, because then 90 to 100 points, maybe 110. But I think when you get into that close, then you may be tapping into Plague Bearers or other units.
I mean, my thing is it's a 10-man unit. Looking at the keywords, with 2 health, you're gonna be 180. You typically don't go too far under the 10 health per wound, 10 points per wound type deal. So it's I'm gonna go 180 for them.
180?
Yeah.
What? No. Plague Bearers are 140 for 10 models. They're not going to be 180.
You don't think so?
No way.
with the built-in one
It-
rend in the
it-
next war scroll.
They're also worse. They're worse than a Plague Bearer. Plague Bearer is much better. Plague Bearer also has a native 5-up ward, and now with Rotbringers, these are down to 6s. They are not going to be more expensive than a Plague Bearer. I'm willing to put a bet on that.
Oh, I'll bet you a beer next one. I just because you do get the 5-up 5-up, so they got a better say. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. I value a 5-up ward over. I think, yeah. I'm going to say they're not going to be more expensive than Plague Bearer.
Okay.
We'll see how hindsight looks after this.
I'm excited now.
The Shaman Foulhide. Again, you got yourself your little 1-cast wizard here, 6-up ward. You got the Rampage Defilement, which is any combat phase, picking a friendly Pestigore unit wholly within 12 to be the target, rolling a dice on a 3+, adding 1 to the attack characteristic of the target's melee weapons. And then you got Prudent Profusion, which is a casting value 7 spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18, making a casting roll, subtract 1 to the rend characteristic to the target's melee weapons till the start of your next turn.
Yes. Love the War Scroll spell. Love it. But it's all a points game, and how expensive Maggotkin is, it's only how much you can fit in there. So the -1 to rend is just so good. It's one of my favorite spells in Seraphon, Mystical, and Forging. A lot of people, I think discount that ability to really dictate, how hard some of their hammers can hit. Another 18-inch range spell that we have here, which is very, very attractive as well. So I like this model a lot. It all depends on kind of like what the builds you're doing too, I think.
So here's my argument to the last slide, which was about the what are they called? I'm just at mind blank. Pestigores. I think the Pestigores will be cheap. I think the Shaman Foulhide will be expensive because this is the force multiplier. This is the force multiplier. Pestigores on their own are fine. They're okay. They're fine. When you start adding the Shaman Foulhide, and I'm going to predict, I don't know, 180, 200, maybe 200's too much, but like, you know what I mean? Like when we start adding like 160, 180 for this one, and then getting the force multiplier with the 3-up +1 attacks, +1 rend if you're sitting outside of enemy territory, then you got a great little spell. I think this is where the points, this will pay the tax of the Pestigores.
Fair, yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see where I agree. This is the model that will hit that, oh, well, if you're bringing those, you're bringing this, then that's where you're going to pay your extra 20 points, etc. Yeah, I like that.
And outside of like just some cheap chaff, going, as I said, like objectives on the backfield or the flanks, I don't think you invest into Shaman Foulhide. Like, sure, that spell's decent, but unless you're building into Pestigore, I don't know if I take this particular model outside of running with Pestigore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Is as attractive as -1 rend is, if I'm trying to pair with Rot Swords, I don't know, depending on how many points the wizard is with that.
And I think that's the thing, like when you've got, a unit of Plague Bearers that you could reinforce. If I'm going to take the Shaman, I'm likely taking a reinforced Pestigore. Then you've obviously talked about the benefits of the Rot Swords. You've got a lot of choices here. So I guess if you don't want to go Rot Swords, you can go this way. Yeah. I don't think you're going to have all of it.
Correct. Yeah.
Is this our last new unit, the Pox-Wretches? I think it might be.
I believe so until it changes, yeah.
We still have lots of changes and armies of renown to talk about. Why is this so much? The Pox-Wretches here, we've got our last unit of idiots. They are 1 health, 6-up save, decaying weapons, 2 attacks, 4/4s, crit auto wounds. They're basically glorified stabbers. Yeah. You've got the Maya Kelpies, who are tokens. There are 6 tokens for every 14 models. That's not going to be annoying moving around the board for 6 tokens. And then what happens? Like, I've got 2 goblin bang drums. They're already annoying enough. Then you've got your contagious Karach, which is once per turn. That sounds like when I'm drowning.
Yep.
Someone's going to clip that. All those alien sounds. So if this unit has any of the Maya Kelpies, pick an enemy unit in combat with the unit to be the target. You can't pick a manifestation or terrain. Pick any number of the unit's Maya Kelpies and remove them from the battlefield. Then roll a dice, adding 1 to the roll for each Maya Kelpie you remove this phase. On an unmodified roll of a 1, the ability has no effect. On a 6+, the target has disease keywords. Now that's interesting. That's interesting.
It's one of those units where, again, that 3-up, if the unit dies, you can still get a chance to disease them. But if they kill all but one, I can make sure that, you're diseased pretty much once per game, right? Once per turn.
Is this a suicide unit?
I think it's a unit you throw out there, potentially just screen, and it throws disease out. It's another option to get disease.
I feel like, depending on how many points, I know this is the theme of the episode. It's like, how many points?
Yeah.
Like, you just put like one unit at the front center of your army, like literally on the deployment line. You run it as fast as you can. Hope your opponent just ignores them because they're 1 health idiots.
Yeah.
And if you can get that one model in combat to survive, then you throw out a whole bunch of disease tokens, especially when you start cashing in your Maya Kelpies. And do you reinforce them? Because if you value disease that much, do you just have one suicidal reinforced unit that runs up the board, tries to get as much disease out as possible, and then the rest of your army's like slowly advancing up the board? I don't know. That might be an insane idea. I don't know, but
yeah,
because you've already got Pestigors and you got other units that can play the chaff game. This is like a disease fast track.
Kamikaze. Yeah, I'm all for it. These guys I definitely thought were interesting, and I'm like, I want to play a couple things with it because it also makes it fun on the table too. When you have a unit like this, and it creates a fun banter on the table where you're just like, I'm coming. Are you stopping it or not? Here they come. Like it's the brainless dudes running right at you.
There's zombies. There's glorified Nurgle zombies.
Well, they're like the 28 days later type zombie though. They're not like slow. They're running at you. They're running through the corridors. They're coming at you.
Especially with a run roll. Like, I spend the CP, go 6, run. Oh, no, actually, no, if you want to charge them, like, just run, get them up the board.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I think we spent too much time with the Pox-Wretches. I think we both agree they're funny. Points definitely dependent, and they certainly feel like something that you'll drop from your list if you're slightly over points, or like you're not building around this. But if you got a couple of points, and if the points are enough, then you probably slot them in.
I mean, if you look at like the Vandals and Hellsmiths, I'm pay 70 points to get disease out all day.
I think they'll be higher than Vandals. I reckon they're probably 80 or 90.
Sure,
because it's 14 models, right? Because it's not 10, it's 14.
Yeah, the Darkwater kit, right?
Yeah, because it's 14. I reckon they're going to be about 100, 110.
And at that point, it's getting a little stiff. We'll see. We'll see where they end up.
All right. What has changed? It's 2 hours. People, if you've listened to this and you've gotten to this particular point after 2 hours, like I owe you a beer probably at this point. I hope you found this valuable, by the way, and hopefully it's gotten you to some really good insights on Nurgle and what you're going to buy first. I think the answer is clearly Rot Swords. So let's maybe knock this one out of the park, and we'll get to the Armies of Renown, or we will literally be here till Christmas. So the first one is the Feculent Narmor. Now, the Feculent Narmor has changed a little bit. I might pass it over to you as my aficionado to call out the most important parts of the change. I think is going to be clear.
Yep. Every single one of the aspects that changes to it are huge. You get the increased rally, or you can make 3 additional rolls if it's a non-hero. Awesome for your Rot Swords Castle. If somebody's shooting them, does a little bit of damage, you bring in some extra dudes back. The 5-up ward coming off of this, wholly within 12 of the trees. You said slingshotting them. That's huge. But then also they can move 3 in any movement phase. So it's not just yours. It's any movement phase, which is super cool. You can't move it in combat. It does still keep its melee profile, so it can still do damage. But the 7 health, 5-up, 5 ward, I mean, it's a fun piece now. it's a fun piece to play with.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and probably like we talked about the ward of the Rotbringers, like it's going to be even more important if you're in the Rotbringer build. But definitely interesting. I love the ability to move around, and even some of the rules we talked about with like bringing them on and using them off the back of objective, like getting them onto the board via the range of objectives. We talked a lot about the narwhals throughout the course of this episode anyway, so all good. Do we lose anything? I was just quickly trying to bring up what in the middle of like what did I actually lose? The disease keyword, right? So like it's one big thing, like pick an enemy unit within 6, roll a dice on a 4-arm, it got diseased. Like that's the thing you've lost.
Yeah, and you gain way more ways to deliver disease now, so I don't think that's a huge loss.
No, this is way more useful, way more and guaranteed as opposed to a 4-up.
Correct.
Yeah, love it. All right, there's been a whole bunch of changes. I'm just going to bring them up on screen. There are 3 pages of changes. So I hope you've listened to this by now and you're liking. You pressed like because it probably spent me 10 years to go through every single war scroll. Instead of going through every little thing here on screen, Austin, what are some of the things that you think on this particular page is the most impactful, either is maybe considering to drop the unit from my list because it's lost the thing, or a little sleeper unit that is now really valuable?
So the one thing I kind of like, there's 2 things. The locust change is staying consistent with everything, so that I can spend a command point to bring back 10 plague bears when my 20-man unit died. I really, really like that. Horticulus is still now your gardener. He can set up trees still, which is awesome at the end of your turn. The other thing too is the Poxbringer, the Herald. If he now gives +1 attack if plague bearers kept their +1 to their mortals on their attacks. So now at +1 attack, that's pretty huge. You can now potentially nuke somebody with some mortals with plague bearers. They can become a little bit more of a damage dealer, especially with the having him in there as the wizard as well, because I'm pretty sure the Poxbringer is the wizard. Correct?
Let me check. I'm pretty sure it is, but you keep going. I will confirm.
No, you're good. The other thing I really like too is the new Rotigus. Having a 10 control score is huge.
Wizard one.
Yeah, like that. You get more Fang Maw attacks, which is huge. Bringer Plenty. So here's the other thing we said is the plus to casts. Remember, we have a wizard who's potentially given +1 to cast to everybody within 3. Now you have him giving +1 to cast to stuff wholly within 12 of Rotigus. Now you have a super strong spell lore with very, very reliable casting now. +2 natively across. Like now you're getting into the Seraphon, benefits of casting.
Can I also call out the Spoiled Pox Scrivener as well? One of the things that I'm just editing the page. One of the things that I really love is that new stupefying sneeze, which in any shooting phase you can essentially turn off an enemy monster's rampage. Now we know there are some very powerful rampages in the game, and it does feel like the meta is increasing significantly with monsters. So if you're in a demon style build, I like that Spoilpox Scrivener quite a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I think that is definitely a very matchup dependent ability, but it can be backbreaking for some units, that's for sure.
Anything else on this page? Obviously, you guys can read all the changes here. I'll go to the next page, which is now some of our Rotbringer heroes, and you can see that we did notice that all Rotbringers have a 6-up ward. We can obviously increase that to a 5 within range of a Feculent Narmor. Anything here that really stands out for you?
Quite a bit. Boab losing the 4-up -1 to hit is a pretty big blow to that moving castle that you were playing before. The Gutrot Spume staying the same is still huge. That's a great tech piece. I've played them multiple times. I really enjoy that. But we've alluded to it a few times in this conversation that the Harbinger of Decay is going to come with those Sloven Knights. And if you look, he gives you a lot of abilities as far as your -1 to wound rolls now. When he's in melee with them is once per game. You roll a d6 instead of the roll equals the target's control characteristic. Yeah, I mean another ability that gives -1 to wound out, where you don't necessarily have to take. You can still take the soggy prayer lore, and you still have another way to access the -1 to wound as well with that. Really like that.
Speaking of wound rolls, I've got to call out the Lord of Plagues because it now afflicts the rot swords over the Blightkings. So now your rot swords can also be doing +1 to wound rolls. So that is a guaranteed. You've got to have a Lord of Plagues in your. If you're running rot swords, you've got to have a Lord of Plagues.
You can do the Gift of Febrile Frenzy, +1 attack, +1 to wound, and maybe the Rustfang on him too. And then the Sloven Knights are there for your fight last. Now you're coming into how many attacks that can be 2s and 2s, rend 2, crit 2 hits. That's a fun little Death Star right there.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of Death Stars as well, the Glotkin got probably, I would call a healthy glow up, right? Whether the tentacles going from a D3 +3 to a consistent 5, the scythe going from 2 to 3 damage. But then also you've seen some extra things like, extra text on the overgrowth of flesh. But more importantly, a new ability called Tentacle Trap, which happens in any combat phase, where pick an enemy hero or monster in combat to be the target, roll the dice on a 4-up for the rest of the turn. The target cannot move and cannot be removed from the battlefield in any ability that would allow it to be set up elsewhere on the battlefield. And you also get to add +1 to hit rolls for combat attacks that target that enemy unit.
Huge.
That's good. That's sure the Glotkin. That's massive.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're not going anywhere. You're staying here. You're not getting away from me like Slippery Scott. Like that's nice.
Skaven, scurry away.
Yeah.
Better battle tactics I've dropped because of stupid scurry away.
Yeah, it's fun. So the 3-3 cross, steps ahead, the triple redeploy Skaven. Yeah, it's good stuff.
There's some good. Anything else there? Obviously, again, some interesting changes. Nothing. I don't think there's anything huge where it's like this is crippling. Obviously, we already knew the Lord of Afflictions change that came out with Battle Scrolls, so
yep.
You can't stack them. It's only a once per return army ability.
Yeah, that's a healthy change. That was needed for sure.
I thought the Blue-Eyed Rotspawn anti-monster scythe was an interesting little addition too.
Yeah, very interesting that the wizard somehow became more killy of the monsters. I thought that was something, which, yeah.
Which combines as well with the rewritten Demon Fly's Rampage. So now you're picking an enemy monster in combat on a 3+, subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of the target's melee weapon. So it's got a little bit more of a defined role going into monsters.
Yeah, he's definitely the monster.
The other thing as well, I'm pretty sure is we've got other units. There's more. 3 pages of changes. Anything here that really stood out for you? Actually, I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to interrupt. Nurglings going from infantry to beast. So, it's not a huge deal. It's not like everyone's running lots of infantry Nurglings, but now that they're beast, obviously the impact to control score, some of the changes as well to the Endless Swarm as well. Not that I think like Nurglings are still Nurglings. It's just, I guess they're less OC, which is going to hurt.
They were always an interesting package with Morbid-X, which it didn't change a ton, right? It's just he now is the one that adds. He basically makes them their control score now, so there's like that compounding thing where you're still taking them in a package usually. I don't know if he kept the ability where he gives the mortals or not to them, but the Nurglings change is definitely very interesting as far as that Morbid-X Twiceborn package. That's for sure.
But I will say that Endless Swarm, I think, makes it more interesting because instead of healing at the end of the turn, when the unit's destroyed, it's set up a replacement unit wholly within 6 inches of a feculent Narmor. So I think that's a really interesting techie piece that does give it a little bit more legs. So instead of trying to be like a little grindy pinning piece, it's now a more tech piece. So interesting.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then another thing too, just to jump ahead a little bit, the Putrid Blightlords, the change to the +1 rend is just enemy units contesting an objective you don't control. Now triggers on enemy units contesting an objective. Super nice. So like if you ever lose control, you're still getting that run, which that's a huge buff. So
lots of cool things. I realized I duplicated the screen, so ignore that phantom disappearing. Weird. Just like you didn't see anything. Like where's my Men in Black little Men in Black little thing? Again, without points, there's certainly a lot of changes here. Certainly some interesting things here. I do like the Plague Bearer Cloud of Flies as well, being -1 to hit, as long as they're on the objective you control. So I think that could play, has got some legs as well.
Yeah.
All right, that's the Battletome. So like if people are like fallen asleep at this point, or maybe like my soothing tone, no, I'm sure you're very like writing notes, looking at the Warhammer store, trying to buy stuff. I'm going to pause for a second, give you like an overall like summary wrap up, and then we might just quickly power through and look at the 2 Armies of Renown. There are 2 Armies of Renown. 2 certainly are interesting. I don't want to spend too much time on it, so hang on with this a little longer and then we'll get some final thoughts. But up until this point, Austin, we've done a lot of interesting rules, some tweaks, some adjustments, some new things, some new scrolls. What's your summary of like normal Nurgle, air quote?
I think there's multiple different builds. It's a well-balanced book. I think it's definitely still going to be something that is quite competitive and fun to play. I personally like all the new units. They have places. There's different builds. The old models are not useless. Like the stuff that you have bought are still playable. They're still going to be, units that the fly build's still there. Your Blightkings are maybe the only thing that are taking a little bit of a hit, but everything else, it's still very viable.
Yeah. If you were someone who ran BK spam in the past, I imagine you don't, because GW did say that the new Blightkings are the same base and you can use the old ones as new ones. I think we both said that we wouldn't really run multiple versions of them. We wouldn't use multiple units of them. Now, I don't know the size of the Rot Swords versus the Blightkings. I feel like they might be on a smaller base size, given that they are a unit of 10. So they may not be a like for like unless you get creative with Cork on a smaller base and like they're now overhanging a cliff or a rock.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you're right. Like nothing else got removed. Most of the things, if you took Warhammer Quest Darkwater, were transferable, with the exception of there's like a Paladin type of unit in that box, I think, that's a little different. But otherwise, most of it can be brought over.
Sure.
All right. Let's power through this, Austin. We got 2 Armies of Renown. We won't spend all of the time in the weeds of it, but I think, for those people who are looking for some interesting, unique ways to play, this certainly does bring some stuff to the fold. The first one being the Cycle of Corruption. The Cycle of Corruption is an army that is based around Rotbringer units. You can't bring a Regiment of Renown. Basically, at a very high level, you can see here that the faction is revolving around these revolutions and revulsions. Anyone who played old Nurgle with the wheel, it kind of gives me a feeling of that wheel just in a new version. But basically, at the start of the battle round, you are going to start on a cycle, and that cycle is ripe. So you've got 7 cycles here. Clearly, you can't roll a 7 on a d6. So you're going to be sitting here either Unnatural Vitality, the Fengthened Vigor, Burgeoning Filth, Plague of Misery, Nauseous Revulsion, Rampant Disease, and then Corruption Regrowth is the 7th. If it's not the first battle round, the cycle then moves to the next cycle in the sequence, and then that rule becomes ripe. And then so forth and so forth. Only one cycle is going to be ripe in any given time, so it's not like it builds and stacks. It is basically like an ability that will happen. So you can see here what happens. You got an unnatural vitality for non-monster heroes getting a 4-up ward. You can get a DO3 heal. You can get some subtraction to the control score. You can get units not being able to use heal or return slain models, -1 to charge rolls, melees getting crit 2 hits. By the way, if you're unfamiliar with Armies of Renown, you are sacrificing everything we spoke about earlier, like battle traits, command ability, like all the stuff that is in your faction. It's unique. So that is like in a nutshell. And then through that, you get yourself a heroic trait, you get yourself an artifact. There are 3 unique spells, 3 unique prayers. First thoughts on the Cycle of Corruption. Is this something that you would play? Do you think it would be competitive? Like, what's your general feel here?
I'm looking at it. The crit 2 hits for non-hero. So again, your flies, it's very interesting. Like that's something, but again, that's only one part of a cycle. I try to look at the rest of these abilities, and it's interesting because now your 2 Lord of Afflictions are super tanky again on the 4-up ward potentially. It would need some games, but with how good they gave us as far as the toolkit to make disease work, it's hard to walk away from that now, if that makes sense.
This is definitely a fun way to play, and I look at, so there's some decent spells, there's some decent prayers. Both the heroic trait and the artifact are both useful. It is very fundamentally different, and you are playing in the realm of randomness with the cycle. So that was always one of the challenges with the old cycle, was that you know, unless you were trying to control the cycle, when there was some much more manipulation in the old version of it back in 2nd or 3rd, you definitely like could play around with it. But if you land on a bad cycle, it could throw off your whole game plan. So from a competitive point of view, I think this is more like a 2-3-3-2 army. I don't think this is like 4-1, 5-0, unless you're like very talented and very, very good at the game. So it's not busted, it's not broken, but it's not strong. Like your traditional stuff is it's playing a certain style.
Yeah, it's something fun if you wanted to pick up and you've played, 2 events of your Rot Swords list or whatever, and you just wanted to play something different.
Yeah, like it's fun, it's good. Run it if you like it. The other one, which I think is going to be a nice kind of like, if you've now listened to us this long, you're being rewarded now. This is so good. So good. Like, look, I'm not going to ruin Christmas. Let's open up the credit now. It's called the Gardeners of Nurgle. So you pick the army, it becomes a Gardener of Nurgle. No surprise. What do you need to have Horticulus, and it must be included. Doesn't have to be the general, but you must include Horticulus. You have any Maggotkin of Nurgle demon unit. You can't include a Regiment of Renown. And to no surprise, what is this about? It's about trees. It's about adding a lot of trees. It's about planting the trees on the table, and I effing love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very interesting, and again, it's part of that whole Guard Nurgle. It's one of the few Armies of Renown where I've looked at it and I'm like, you know what, this is fun, and it's something new. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's really dictating with the trees. It's a fun army.
You're setting up trees, you're playing around with trees, you can see, transplanting, you can pick a Narmor and then it teleports around the board and gets replanted. Then you can start using the cultivation of the Garden of Nurgle, and like then we can do a bunch of extra. It's just fun. Like this to me, compared to the last one, this is fun. This is like, I have lots of trees. I have like 10 feculent Narmor somehow, and I just want to get them all on the table. Maybe my 3D printer's been going burr for a while. This is a great way to this is fun. Cool as hell. And then obviously you get yourself a heroic trait, you get yourself an artifact, and oh my god, look at my artifact. Set up a feculent Narmor. What's my heroic trait? Oh, I get +1 hit being near a feculent Narmor. So if you love your feculent Narmors, or you like me, just like saying it a lot, and then you can see like this, it's just playing around this tree mechanic, and it's fun. And it's also obviously very demon build. So we have spoken a lot about like rot swords and things like that. But if you're more of a demon style, I think This is definitely more of the way I would play in like a fun game. Maybe it's
Oh yeah.
yeah.
What 100%? I mean, you're playing a fun game with this. You could still be a little techie. Like if you're somebody who wanted to play like a little bit more on hard mode, this is something where you can go out there and get some aura farming, as the kids like to say these days. You know, like Scumfall, they can't see you outside of 9, so that's super strong. Like there's it's just fun. It's fun, and it's one of those things where they wrote a string of rules to make something fun play well. Like I think this will be fun on the table.
I think this has a higher glass ceiling. Like I think this is a 2-3 or up to a 4-1.
Yeah.
Like I could see this doing better, like with some good tree placement and some like good list building. Obviously, that's true of everything, but like I think this has a higher ceiling. I could see this doing 4-1.
Yeah, I absolutely, because a lot of the rules that affect the plague bearers too are on war scrolls. So like the plague drones, like there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like this. Like when I run to a tournament, like yeah, maybe end of season. When I take it to Adepticon, maybe not necessarily. But it'll also throw your opponent off. Like you do what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the no war, like if you look at the canopy of virulence or whatever, until the start of your next turn, target wholly within 12 of a friendly Gnarl, ward rolls can't be made. Like,
Yeah,
it's fun.
well, as you say, even Scumfall as well, being not visible within 9 inches, like that, there's some good stuff there. But look, man, we could talk forever. We could talk a lot about this book. But bring me home, man. Like, you know, as a Nurgle aficionado, someone who's played with it for a while, who topping the rankings on the ITC alongside with Mike. You know, you've been through some of the challenges. You've seen the soggy updates. We've now got our Battletome in our hand. By the way, Element Games in the UK, Gap Games in Australia, Warpfire Minis. You know the link. Help me out. But like, what's your overall thoughts, feelings, emotions? We've gone through some like really good stuff, some disappointment stuff as well. What are you thinking?
I'm liking it. I gotta obviously buy some rot swords, but we go through it. I don't know how many Sloven Knights I'm gonna get. I'm still gonna get some to get that fight last. We don't know the points, but just looking at the overall rules, I'm excited. It's one of those things where at some point you're a little bit nervous when you're getting your book, because it's like, how much does it change from the index? Like, where am I at? Where are the rules? And I think with got a ton of new, awesome, good stuff. It's a really good spot as a Maggotkin player, where we're now going to have multiple builds where the meta could shift and we have options that can allow us to stay relevant, which is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like whether you are a Rotbringer player or if you are a Demon player, there's good builds in here for each player. I don't think this is a 5-0 army off the gates, which is a good thing. I definitely do think this makes you way more competitive compared to your index. You can clearly see that this book was written in 4th edition, unlike some of the previous Battletomes where it's like small tweak here, small tweak there. I think they've looked at how Nurgle's played over the last 18 months, and there's been good fundamental changes across the board in everything. And I think you'll now get this opportunity, given that there's so much change, to actually don't just try to wedge your current list into this. I would step back and go, right, what type of rules do I want to really play into? What's the battle formation that works for me? What are some of these new units bringing to the party? Like, how do I start building out these combinations? That's how I would take this, as opposed to like, right, here's my 2K. I'm going to drop this, add some things, and no, like, you're not going to get the most value out of this book.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, trying to add in Festus, there's a lot that they've added here that gives us options. That it's interesting, and it's gonna be fun, because I don't think it's like something that's super easy to min max on a competitive level yet until we get some games in and play, because I think there are multiple builds.
I also think, and maybe I'll revisit this, down the track. I wonder if it's like, so going back to Hellsmiths, for example, one, because it's my what I'm playing right now, But Hellsmiths, I think, is a really good mixed arms unit where, like, you don't see a lot of spam. Like, yes, you can spam, like, your bull centaurs and things like that. But, like, it's a real mixed arms. And I wonder if Nurgle is the same thing, where it's like they want you to have a little bit of this, a little bit, yes, rot swords as well. But, like, they're trying to encourage you to have a little bit of everything. And then you've got a lot of tools in your toolkit rather than spam it all.
Yes, correct. I agree with you 100% in that aspect where, I mean, like you even bring Sloven Knights now in with your flies. So now you're getting your opportunity to hand out fights last in that sense. Like I like what they did, but like, honestly, I think it's interesting and it's going to be fun. You're not necessarily just sitting on your 5-up ward now. Like there's different toolkits now where you can almost prevent people even getting to you with your no commands, your having your movement still coin quagmire. Now your prayers -2 to your charges, or maybe -1. Like there's a ton of toolkit there where you can really kind of the skill ceiling is very high with Maggotkin right now for an army that you think is just, oh, this person just rolled 5-ups and he beat me. No, you have toolkits where you can really kind of control your opponent.
Yes, no longer just the grind fest, push things up and just grind the opponent. It does feel way more. I mean, you can still do it, right? You can still bring up your demons, your 5-ups, and just push things forward. But I feel like you've got a lot more depth in this update, more tools in the toolkit. Yes, Austin, I think you and I could keep talking about this forever. You've been an absolute gentleman of a guest. Anyone you want to shout out at this particular point?
I mean, everybody's gotten me to where I go. Alan, who's local, he's part of a Fundle Bundle, new up and coming Wisconsin. That's where I'm from. He's the one who lets me dojo when I can, when I can get away from the kids. He's the one who lets me get games, so he's a big help to me to get where I go. And then of course, thanks for letting me get on here. Appreciate it.
No, absolute pleasure. And I'm glad we got to have this really good chat. I hope this was valuable, everybody. Again, it's hard for us to, give us a couple of months, a couple of good practice games, and we'll have much better insights. And maybe we'll look to revisit Nurgle in the near future. 2, obviously, points comes into play. Not that points is a huge differentiator, but if something is certainly too high or too low, then it certainly would change our opinions a little bit. And we'd obviously be able to bring what does a good list look like, or how are we thinking about our list right now. But certainly if I was starting Nurgle, Festus and Rot Swords probably would be my start. Probably like the Lord of Plagues, I think would be like the 3 units I would have. And then I would just build my own flavor depending on what it is. Unless I was running like Maggotkin, which is a lot of points, and I need to make sacrifices, because Maggotkin and Festus is probably 1,000 points between them.
Yeah.
Probably.
Maggotkin's always super, super expensive when he first comes out, and then they're like, all right, nobody's playing him. And then it comes down to 100 points, and then you see him everywhere. So
that new Maggotkin update, like I look at that and go, that's actually pretty solid. Like there's something in that.
So just riddle me this, is the damage 5 weapon still a companion weapon?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that changed. I would have called it out.
Okay. I don't remember if it was companion or not on the tentacle, but if that is, and you crit 2 hits on that coach.
All right, give me a second. I'll bring it up. This is Maggotkin. No, it's not companion.
It's not? Okay.
No, tentacle's not companion. No, none of the weapons are companion.
Okay. So that's the only thing I was thinking, is maybe that was companion on that.
No, unless it's in the ability. No, it's
no.
No. Okay. Yeah, I like this. I like your sneaky thinking.
I mean, you gotta dig deep sometimes. You gotta just see where you're going with it. And man, that's where a lot of it's at, is learning your whole book. That's the biggest strength, man.
Well, the other strength that I have is an awesome Discord. So, like always, if you are not on my Discord, there's like over 12,000 Age of Sigmar players. Come check us out, because I know once this is out, you're all going to be cracking the shell, trying to get into that juicy center, maybe festering center of Nurgle. And I'm very curious to see how the community kind of starts building up these lists, because this is a very fundamental change. So unlike some of the other tweaks. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here. But anyway, let's bring it home. I think we'll keep going back to a conversation if we keep doing this. Austin, you're a gentleman. Yep. Thank you so much. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed our preview, and I look forward to more discussion about Nurgle and seeing how this Battletome evolves. All right, bye for now.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you press like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.